Alright, Blue Lock Season 2 might have just been the worst anime season of 2024. And you don't have to just take my word for it, but the many other videos that explains why this season was so terrible. All I want to do is highlight what was good about this season to what was bad about this season, which was pretty much everything. I'm gonna start with the bad, and so I won't waste your time, I'll just get started with the already dead horse in the corner, the animation. And I mean, what else can I say about it? You already know what I'm about to say. If you've just watched just one episode of the season, or just watched any of the gargantuan amount of videos talking about it, you already know exactly what I'm about to say. It sucks, it's terrible, nothing is good about it.
It was the worst thing I've ever seen!
It's the whole 9 yards of Google Slide, moving PNGs, frame lock in all of its glory. And because everything was just basically moving still frames, it was hard to even know what type of movements the players were actually doing on the field. Like, look at the ball that's being passed to Rin, or Chigiri stopping the ball from being passed. Now, the character that was done dirty the most to during the first half of the season was definitely Shido, which I can imagine that this is a surprise for some of you, since Shido was also some of the best parts of this season. If you read the manga, you already know about this, but if you only watched the anime, you would not know that Shido had an earlier appearance. It was a match between Kunigami and Reo versus Shido and a Kani clone, and as Shido explained during the last episode of the first season, he was the reason why Kunigami was kicked out of Blue Lock and sent to the wild card. In fact, I made a whole short video talking about this very match, so check it out if you want a few of the details. But it was during this match that we get Shido's weapons and his philosophy on his playing style. But we never got that until Shido explained it himself during that very intimate goal, and he explained his entire life story around football and why he plays it. And when we finally see Shido playing in the third selection, every goal he made was pretty much nothing. It had like 2 frames with barely any contact or impact to the ball, which only looks somewhat adequate because of the flashing effects that they put around it.
He's all show and no substance.
And that's the issue with this animation. There's barely any movement, they focus too much on the flashing effects around them, and continuously maximize the aura on characters for no reason at any moment. And oh my gosh, I decided to rewatch the first Rin vs. Sai matchup on Crunchyroll's official channel, and we have the actual NFL saying we deserve better.
Damn it! You can't make this shit up!
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm finished with the animation. Time to move on. The overuse of effects. I hope I'm not the only one that feels this way about it, but in exchange for the horrible animation, we've been given too many visual effects. But I'm not as frustrated with the visual effects as I am with the animation, because I believe the visual effects give a great flair to Blue Lock, and it is known for its aura-like nature. What I don't like are the visual effects being blasted at my face every time we see still frames of characters moving. And as I said before, I'm incredibly annoyed at characters having aura around them for no reason. Meanwhile, in season 1, any character that had aura had it because they were either moving on instinct, going for an amazing play, or was trying to go through an awakening. Those are essentially the major points of why I found the season horrible. So I'm just gonna start talking about the good stuff, the OST. Now, the general music to Blue Lock has always been generally good, and that never stopped in season 2. I personally believe the opening was great and the ending was also really good too, but it was mainly the OSTs in the background that really got me hooked, as I believe that's one of Blue Lock's strong suits. Whenever a character was going through some awakening, them scoring the goal, doing some new technique, the background music was always complementing whatever action they were doing. My personal favorite was Shido's, which I've still been listening to for weeks.
It was so good.
Except one moment when Itoshi Sai first appeared, and for some reason the OST was very long. It did not match what I was seeing from him. It was to the point where whatever Sai was doing was more hilarious to me than it was menacing. I hope I'm not the only one that noticed this. Now last but not least, the final good aspect to Blue Lock Season 2, the hype moments. Because of how the first half of the Blue Lock Season 2 went, most of us believed that the hype moments that were going to happen in the U20 match was going to be just as terrible. At least to those of us who already lost hope by then. But surprisingly, they actually delivered. Shido was a character that most people were scared of getting butchered since he was the main hype of the second season. But not only did his goals have a great animation and great soundtrack, putting the animation aside, you can feel just how menacing he was in the anime just like he was in the manga. And all of the goals were also pretty good. Nagi's goal was definitely the one that made people believe, oh, I guess there is hope for the animation. For the goals anyway. Baro's was also pretty nice, but I'm not really into Rin's goal. It just ain't good, at least compared to the other goals. Then we have players like Reo and Nico on the field who really stood out, as Nico had multiple moments of proving himself to be a great defender, especially when he was challenged against Shido. Sendo on the other hand, any person could handle him.
Face here, you are a fucking loser.
and Rayo was really locking down Shield in the later half of the game, so both of them played amazingly. And I'm happy to say that they managed to adapt Destroyer Rin really well. Yes, of course, the animation was still a bit of a problem, but Rin moving up the field and matching against all the defenders was done in a way that I believe was satisfying enough. And now finally, the conclusion of the match. And once again, I said this at the start of the video, there's not much for me to say here. It was magical. Absolute cinema. The animation, the movement, the technique, the voice acting, the final goal by Isagi. All of it was perfection. Everything was amazing in this episode and it could not have been done better. And I think it's fair to say that the Rin vs. Sai fight will go down as the best fight in Blue Lock within the anime. And with that, it's time to give my overall thoughts, which begs the question, is it worth it? Or in my case, was it worth it to watch Blue Lock Season 2? No. It wasn't. Blue Lock was 30% bad animation, 30% CGI, 20% visual effects, and 20% choppy movements, and was just 100% a complete mess. The glorified moments are not enough to make up for the amount of damage the rest of the season had done. I'm sure I, among many others, still watched it because of its good story, and I'm sure other people in the future would do the same. But it is still not an excuse for the other major issues that this season left us. It's to the point where I'd rather recommend people watch the first season of Blue Lock and just head straight into the manga. I personally still managed to enjoy this season, and even managed to laugh a bit at some of the mistakes during the season. So if you just care for the story and want to watch it just to have a good time, go ahead and watch it if you already didn't. But if you're someone who really cares for the entire experience, then I would suggest skipping the second season and heading straight to the manga. And so with that, I leave you with one final question for you, because as of the second season, the first phase of Blue Lock has ended. So I'd like you to tell me which character in Blue Lock has resonated with you the most. Are they your favorite? Do you believe they're the best character? Tell me anything. Isagi is still my glorious king, and I will stand by that. And with that, that's all I have to say. I'd also like to apologize about how late this video came out. Putting all the holidays aside, there were other priorities that I had to take care of. And admittedly, there was a sprinkle of procrastination too, but I will be staying consistent from here on out. So stay cheerful and peace.